Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the Bubba Continuum. I think it's Tuesday, December the 12th. It's a funny day. For maybe 30 years, I thought my sister's birthday was January the 12th, and it turned out it was a different day. That shows how badly connected we were. Anyway, it's January the 12th, and that's the significance of that day to me. Welcome to my Civil War diary, Installation 1, the brewing storm. I guess I shouldn't be so lighthearted about it. It's a very bad thing, but I feel good. I can't help being lighthearted. It's just the way I am these days. So forgive me if I'm not miserable. It's not my war anyway. It's, it may be your war. It's not mine. I wanted to talk about a couple of things. First of all, I stuck the old AR-15 up there behind me. I admit part of my reason for doing that is, just to kind of give the needle to anti-gun people who happen to come by my channel, scribbling my YouTube handle down to put me on a list someplace, so that I'll be among the people put up against the wall when the revolution comes, which I guess it already has come. I just put it up there to needle them. I know somewhere an old lady is looking at it and she's going like, "He has a gun. He's Miss Sugar. Why would anyone have a gun?" I don't care. Tough. I wanted to talk about the AR-15 a little bit, and I wanted to talk about what's going on with Parler. And Parler, in case you don't know, but of course you do know if you're watching my channel, Parler is the conservative Twitter. That's the best way to describe it, I guess. Conservatives are always trying to come up with ways to compete with social media. And it's never going to work. I mean, it's ridiculous to try. If you really want to communicate with other conservatives, get yourself a ham radio and join forums. And when the forums go down, well, then at least you'll have the radio. But anyhow, Parler is this website that was put up sort of like Gab. I've never belonged to Gab. Now, I have belonged to Parler for a while, back when the presidential campaign was looking somewhat better than it is now. And I found it really dull because there was nobody. There were like 10 people that were worth following, and a lot of it was just ignorance and propaganda. Because when you put up a new site dedicated to one side of the political spectrum, you're going to end up with, you're going to draw the nuts and the self-marketers and the people that are trying to make money off of politics. So I didn't think too much of Parler. And I had no faith in it to begin with. I was just curious. For maybe 10 years, I've been telling people, we're going to be pushed off the internet. We're going to be pushed off the internet. We used to own the internet, and now we're being shoved out of it. And it's going to happen. We're going to be censored, and we're going to be treated like the Jews in pre-war Germany. And get used to it. Give up these ridiculous ideas about how we're going to rule the world. It's not going to happen. I mean, maybe when the Messiah comes, maybe when Jesus returns, but not now. And nobody listened to me. Well, now Parler's gone. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I wanted to say, I guess, why didn't people see this coming? This is a great example of doing something carnal, thinking what you're doing is really important and influential, and just turning out to be, it turns out you're wasting your time. You're just wasting your time and making yourself and your friends look foolish. I'm not saying I don't sympathize with the people who run Parler, but it just wasn't a good idea. And one of the reasons it was a bad idea is that they set this thing up so that Amazon provided the hosting for it. Do you see anything wrong with that? I wrote about it on my blog the other day, and I said it was like saying, "Excuse me, Mr. Hitler, can we build a synagogue right next to the Fuhrer bunker? Would that be all right? We just have a little easement there." I shouldn't laugh, but why did anyone think this was a good idea? Who runs Amazon? Hello? It's not the Boogaloo Boys. I do not endorse the Boogaloo Boys. I think they're astounding idiots. I'm totally against them. But anyway, it's you have to be crazy to put up a conservative social media site and rely on a liberal-dominated company to keep it going. And this is one of the reasons that I don't like social media in general when it comes to the conservative sites. All of them ultimately depend on leftists, statists, and the government. Okay? There's another one called Gab, and I never joined Gab because I kept hearing about how it was full of Nazis. So okay, the Gab is still up, and of course the guy who runs Gab is doing the typical thing that conservatives do. When conservatives get a little piece of the pie, what do? They become competitive and cut everybody else out. So the guy who runs Gab put up some kind of announcement saying, "Hey, were you on Parler? Well, you're welcome at Gab. Come on over." So you look at it and you say, "Oh, that's nice. He's trying to help people who've lost their platform." No, he's not. He's trying to destroy his competitor. He's poaching their customers. This is exactly this is one of the reasons that conservatives have lost the internet. When liberals encourage new talent, they'll find some total goofball who's got a blog that's worthless and full of lies and bias, and they'll pay that person to blog. They'll give them promotion. They'll help them out. And conservatives, when you try to rise up and threaten the few conservatives that have a little spot in the sun, they stomp on you, man. They crush you. So, not surprising to see what's happening with Parler and Gab. Why did people think this would work? It makes no sense to me. How could they be so foolish to think that they could do this in an area where liberals are totally dominant, state worshipers, the Antichrist children? So I don't know what to tell you about Parler. I doubt it's coming back. No, I shouldn't say that. I think it's going to come back, but I don't think it's ever going to succeed. I think if you ever do see a conservative social media site persist and do well, it'll probably because it's doing something the devil likes. It'll be the Boogaloo Boys and the how many white supremacists are there in this country? Like 60,000 maybe. So they're the ones that the left always focuses on, as if there's this huge tide of white supremacists. Actually, it's very few people, and they're generally on welfare, or they work minimum wage jobs, or they live off their parents. The least influential, least powerful people on earth, and the left treats them like it's this gigantic tide, this tsunami of white supremacism that doesn't exist. Anyway, if you ever see a social media site that helps conservatives do well, my guess is that it will only be because Satan thinks it's doing him some good. So I would say stay off of this stuff. Ignore it. Why are you fooling with this stuff? You can't please God in the flesh. The Bible says that. And these ideas, putting up websites and so forth, and waving your campaign signs and rallying and storming the Capitol, which is just ridiculous. These things are all carnal. God never told anybody to do these things. So, we're supposed to be supernatural warriors. We're supposed to fight spirits. Fighting people should be the last resort. It's a sign that you failed when you find yourself tussling with people and ignoring spirits. And what happens is you end up, when you fight the Antichrist children on their turf and on their terms, you just end up joining them. Man. How many years have I been predicting this and nobody listened to me? And it didn't come from me, it came from God. It was obvious. And I don't know. I'm not going to go out in the street. I'm not going to join a militia. I mean, if you want to protect your home with firearms, God bless you. Go for it. But if there are hordes of statists who descend in your area out of buses that are funded by somebody in California, and you feel the need to form a group and protect yourselves, great. But this idea that we're gonna do the same thing, get in our buses and go bother other people, that's asinine. So don't do it. This is my take. I believe I'm right about this, and I've been right so far. As for the AR-15, the reason I put that up, my thinking about the AR-15 keeps changing. I know I'm a terrible marketer. I don't care. I'm not marketing myself. I always tell people, don't subscribe, don't like, go away, whatever. I don't care. Turn me into YouTube. Get my channel deleted. Couldn't care less. So I'm doing some terrible marketing here. First of all, there's the bad editing and the fact that I don't write a script. I mean, the lack of editing, the utter lack of editing, I should say. And there's the rambling, and then there's the fact that I mix things up. 1 minute I'm talking about God, the next minute I'm talking about the AR-15. If you want to market, what you want to do is focus on something. You want to be the only person who talks about toilet brushes or whatever on the internet. So you want to make sure that all the people who are interested in that go to you. You don't talk about one thing one day and another thing the next. But I do because I don't care. So I wanted to talk about the AR-15 because it's interesting to me. I've never been a big fan of the AR-15 as a weapon. It's something to use against other people, whether to defend your house or even to defend your country. It just seems like a poor excuse for a. It's not a good thing to trust your life to, because no matter what anyone says, it still has reliability issues, and the standard caliber is so small. It's just not that helpful, especially in a home invasion situation or self-defense situation. In the military, my understanding is in the military you want to wound people. It's much better to wound people than it is to kill them, because when you wound people, you take the wounded person out of the battle and you take out all the people that are caring for them. So that's great. So shooting with a 223 is brilliant. But when you're shooting people in your yard or in your bedroom, you don't want wounding. You want instant incapacitation. And 223 is not the choice for that. It's just not. 7.62 is much better. 308 is better yet. I mean 7.62 by 39. I know 308 is also 7.62, more or less. Anyway, I just don't think that much of the caliber, and I don't like the reliability issues. And there are guns out there that appear to be, and I'm not an expert on military weapons by any means or any kind of weapon, but I know there are weapons out there now that appear to be considerably better than the AR-15 platform, even for military use. Like the Israelis have the Tavor. There's all these things out there that appear to be better. So I wasn't a huge fan of the AR-15 for personal protection. And so then I already had an AR-10, which I mistakenly bought for precision shooting. I don't know what was going through my head. Well, I shouldn't say that because, I'll just continue. You'll understand. For a long time, I had an AR-10, but I used it very rarely. And I ended up buying an AR-15 just because I wanted the AR-15 experience. The same way that I bought a Harley Davidson just because I wanted a Harley Davidson experience. You can't get that from buying a Honda, no matter how much nicer than a Harley it might be. It's still not a Harley. So I bought the AR-15 and shot it, and I had some problems with it. I couldn't do better than like 2 minutes of angle with it from a rest. And actually, that was the main problem. That was a problem, and the trigger was horrible. Mil-spec triggers are disgusting. So I wasn't all that thrilled with it. And I thought to myself, not only is this thing not that great for self-defense, it's not that great for hunting and shooting targets. The accuracy is a problem, the trigger is annoying, and there's other things that are better. You can get a nice bolt-action rifle that's smooth as silk and super accurate. Well, things have been changing, and I've learned some stuff. I took a course in June of last year, and I went to a highly rated, what would you call it, shooting school, and they told me that gas guns, a gas gun is a semi-automatic that's, the bolt and all that is all propelled by the gas that comes out of the cartridge. I'm sure that's a terrible definition, but it means it includes things like AR-10s and AR-15s. And they told me that gas guns are inherently less accurate than bolt-action guns. And then I go on the internet and everybody would say the same thing. And they'd say, well, if you've got an AR-15 and it shoots 2 MOA, you're doing great because that's the best they can do. And I bought into this stuff. And I thought, well, now I've got this gun, which isn't that accurate, isn't that great for self-defense. What is it good for? So time passed, and then I joined a forum, an online forum, where they have some really good teaching videos that you have to pay for. And these teaching videos said, they said the AR platform is actually extremely accurate. It's actually competitive with bolt guns. The problem is people don't know how to shoot it. There's things you have to do differently. And that hit home with me because I've taught people how to shoot pistols and stuff. And I always tell them, it's not talent. People think you have to have the special talent to shoot a pistol. I mean, I'm sure talent helps, but it's all about listening. If you just listen, most people won't listen, especially men. They go to the gun and hold their gun. They go to the range and hold their gun sideways, and they want to be like Bruce Willis or Ice Cube or somebody they've seen in the movies or on TV. And it's a real affront to their masculinity to ask a question. And so they think if you're a man, you just know how to shoot. You do what they do in the movies. And as the farthest thing from the truth. So most people shoot badly. Most people do not understand that you have to have a little instruction. So I guess the reason I'm saying that is these people who go on the internet and say the AR-15 is not accurate. These are people who can't shoot. And it's also maybe it's people who have guns that are on the crummy side, or people that have really bad ammunition. But basically, it's people that don't know how to shoot, and people who do know how to shoot these things get wonderful results. You know, I mean, under half a minute of angle. So I took out the AR-15 the other day, and I applied the stuff that I had learned in these videos, and I didn't shoot perfectly, but it was a very windy day. The weather service said it was like 13 miles an hour. The wind was blowing, and it was gusting, you know, this way and that way. The wind was literally shifting 360 degrees. I don't even know how that's possible, but it was. You know, sometimes it was behind me, sometimes it was in front of me. So this cartridge is supposed to drift around 1 inch in a 10-mile-an-hour crosswind, and I had crosswinds that were worse than that. So you would expect me to shoot like 2 inches, right? Sometimes it's going to be on the right, sometimes it's going to be on the left. So the round should go 1 inch to the left and 1 inch to the right, depending on where the wind is. And what I actually got was an average group size of 1.125 inches, I think it was, which is pretty close to a minute of angle. Some of them were bigger, some were smaller. The worst one was like 2.1 inches or something, which is really good when the wind's blowing. So I came away from that, and I learned that the AR-15 really will shoot. I mean, I'm anxious to get out there and shoot when it's calm. And when I learned that it was easy to shoot accurately if you knew what you were doing, I thought maybe I should get another one, you know, because I have a 204 Ruger rifle that I got for shooting things like coons and coyotes, which I have not done yet, but I still like shooting the gun. And what I bought was Thompson Center Venture, which is a bolt-action rifle. It's like, I don't know, $400. Very nice gun. But Thompson Center, they're kind of, I'm just going to say it, they're kind of jerky. For example, the Venture rifle, they've upgraded the trigger. They have a Venture 2 now. Well, if you contact Thompson Center and you say, I'd like the parts so I can upgrade my rifle, or have a Smith upgrade it, and they say, forget it. Well, okay, I don't have to buy any more of your guns either, you know? So that's one thing they did. They won't let you upgrade the trigger. And another thing they do is they make a 3-round magazine for this rifle. So the most you can do, the most you can hold in the gun is 4 rounds, 1 in the pipe and 3 in the box. And typically, bolt-action manufacturers, or at least the aftermarket, will supply larger magazines if you pay for them. It's a way of making more money. You know, you sell somebody a gun for $400 or $600, and then you make them buy another magazine for $50. So it's annoying, but it works well. It works out well in the long run for everybody. Well, Thompson Center doesn't do that for this particular rifle. You get 3 shots or nothing, and that could be a problem. What if you want to go out and shoot something that's likely to charge, or that's likely to take off if it gets wounded, and you need to put more shots into it? What if you're shooting multiple targets? You're not gonna be able to do that with 3 rounds. Just forget it. It's not going to happen. Well, even though I like the rifle a lot, I'm irritated with Thompson Center. I feel like selling the gun. And what I decided to do was to get an upper, a 204 Ruger upper for the AR-15, because I know it'll shoot extremely well. And if I feel like it, I can put a 30-round magazine on it. I don't think I would do that. I think that's kind of, excessive and cumbersome. But I would like to go out and shoot pigs. And I don't want to be sitting there, cranking the bolt and hoping that things work out right. So I went to White Oak Armament, which makes really nice stuff that isn't too horribly expensive. And hopefully someday, before the summer, my 204 Ruger upper will arrive. And then I'll be able to go out and see what it will do. And if it lives up to its promise, it should shoot as well or better than the Thompson Center, which does shoot very well. And after that, why would I want to keep the Thompson Center? What is the purpose? I mean, I can put a small magazine in it and shoot, like a 5-round magazine, which is much better than 3, and shoot just about any place legally, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what all the laws are. But, I mean, I'll have I'll have a gun that holds a lot of stuff, that shoots accurately, and also one big advantage is it will have what do they call it, a handguard. I always think of it as a foregrip, but anyway, it'll have a handguard on it that's made to hold all kinds of junk, because that's how AR-15s are. The people who sell them want you to buy other stuff, and they want you to know that if you buy your rifle from them, that you'll be able to buy stuff from other people and put it on there. So people put all this junk on their rifles, you know. I mean, lights and cameras and, I don't know, dorm refrigerators, whatever else, just mount it on there. So the gun's made for it, and the Thompson Center Venture is not made for that. It's got a scope rail, and that's it, you know, a couple of sling studs and a scope rail. I just bought a Coyote light, and it goes on a Picatinny rail. I can't put that on the Thompson Center unless I go out and buy an aftermarket sling stud Picatinny combination mount, which doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. I did decide to buy one because I'll have it until the other thing shows up, but it doesn't seem like a great solution, you know. So once I've got the AR-15 working, I can stick the light on this thing and have my scope and all that, and I'll be ready to go, you know. So that's cool. So I don't know, my current take on the AR-15 is still bad for self-defense, probably still not the greatest thing for military use or anything resembling military use, but seems like a great gun for hunting and pretty good for target shooting. I mean, you can get one that will exceed your capabilities unless you're really, really unbelievably good. I hope that's right. So we'll see what happens. I really look forward to it. I don't know. A lot of people don't like the 204 Ruger. I think it's a neat cartridge. Maybe it's stupid to spend so much money on something that will only kill animals like smaller than a coyote. People do kill hogs with them, though, and I intend to give that a try. You know, I like the low recoil. I like the super accuracy, the flat shooting, all that stuff. So I don't know. I've read enough from people who say they've shot hogs with it to be reasonably confident that if you're a good shot and you choose your shots carefully, it ought to be a pretty good gun for that purpose. I think a lot of the people who criticize guns based on the stopping power for hogs, I have a feeling those are people who want to shoot 20 hogs at once. Because when you're shooting all over the place and you're just spraying, trying to eradicate hogs, I guess you need something like a 308 or 6.5 Creedmoor or 4570 to really get the job done. But I don't plan to do that kind of shooting. What am I going to do with 20 dead hogs? I'd like to get one hog under 100 pounds at a time. You know, what am I going to do with a 250-pound hog? I can't put that in my refrigerator. So I want to get, I want to get little hogs that are easy to cook and which taste better. Easy to cut up and butcher and freeze, and which taste better. So that's my story. I now like the AR-15. I can feel things rising in my throat when I say that, but it's true. I like the AR-15 now for certain purposes. Now, who knows? Maybe next month I'll be saying, hey, it's wonderful for self-defense. It's the greatest thing ever invented. But I don't think so. I really don't see that happening. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's Eastern Bloc all the way. Grab your AK-47, grab your VZ-58. You pull the trigger, it goes off every time. Got more stopping power. The ammunition is cheap. How can you beat that? You will never, ever find a resource on the internet that says, here's how to fix the reliability problems with your Eastern Bloc weapon. I mean, I just don't think it'll happen. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone will Google it and look. I'm not an expert. I'm doing my best. If you're concerned about the election and wondering what's going to happen, all I can tell you is don't put your trust in man. The Bible makes fun of us all the time for putting our trust in men. Don't do it. Good things are not going to happen if that's what you do. You need to live in God's reality. There's two realities. There's a reality for the children of the Antichrist, the people that are miserable and screeching and screaming, and who thought that 2021 would be this wonderful year when everything would magically change and it would rain candy-coated unicorns everywhere. And 2021 is going to be much worse than 2020. Just watch. Coronavirus is still raging, and now Biden's going to do his best to lock us in our homes and destroy the economy. Oppression by the left is going to be incredible. Biden's planning to open the borders. So if he really does get into the White House, this is going to be a horrible year, and the year after this will be worse still. So you need to be in God's reality. You need to be in the land of favor, not the land of disfavor. I keep saying 2020 was a wonderful, wonderful year for me, and I expect this year to be wonderful. And I don't expect to have any serious problems until I go. Maybe they'll show up on my porch someday and shoot me in the head, but I expect to have a pretty good time until then, and that's good enough. I don't really want to be here when they start shooting people in the head. They'll be doing me a favor, introducing me to the one that I really want to be with. So if you're living in the wrong reality, you need to change that. It's not about your circumstances. It's about what's inside you. God showed me a long time ago. He said he gives me these little phrases that have turned out to be very, very reliable. And one of the things he said was, "I cause all my own problems." And another thing he said was, "All my problems are caused by lack of prayer." He said, all my problems are caused by lack of prayer. And it's the same for you. I got this big long list. I went through them today. I found 216 things just on my latest phone. These phrases that God had given me that are just wonderful. They're so great. And I need to take them and transfer them to my computer and write them down. That's what I did in the past. And I got this big long collection of these things. I'll tell you what it's like. It's kind of like the book of Proverbs, except the book of Proverbs makes things kind of obvious. Whereas these little phrases God gives me, you kind of have to have Holy Spirit revelation to understand a lot of them. He'll say something like, "Everything is fixed." Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that the kitchen sink doesn't drip anymore? No. It means my future is assured. But I wouldn't know that without the Holy Spirit, So he's giving me a lot of stuff like that. And he'll do things. He'll communicate with you too. He absolutely will. I think I'm really getting to the point where I can sift out the things that I think come from God and don't, and the things that do come from God. I think I'm getting to the point where God is enabling me to separate them pretty well. I haven't done that well asking God yes or no questions. It seems like that is kind of not that reliable. Maybe because I don't interpret what I hear correctly, or because my biases override what God says. But when it comes to things like prophecy and prayer in tongues always works, and these little phrases that God gives me, these things seem to be extremely, extremely solid. So anyway, God doesn't want you to have a hard life. He doesn't want you to work hard. One of the things God told me is hard work is for people who don't know God. I know that makes people mad to hear that, because there's a lot of Christians out there that, like I always say, they want to be God's tough little soldiers, his tough little football players. And that's not what God wants. That's pride. He hates pride. He works against those people. So if you're working hard and you're suffering all the time, it's not because God loves the way you suffer and he wants to see more of it, so he gives you misfortune. It's not the way it works. If you're suffering and you're miserable all the time and you're working really hard for God, it's because you're working really hard for God. You should be humbling yourself and trying to get yourself aligned with him so he does the work. Moses didn't part the Red Sea. Okay? Samson didn't lift the gates of Gaza. God lifted them. Samson was just there, standing under them with God doing the work. Oh, boy. I guess I better stop. I talked a long time. So, pray that I have success in my hunting ventures. I'd like to get out there and do something correctly. I'm thinking I may take 204 Ruger out, take the 204 Ruger bolt action out and start shooting squirrels with it, because I've had these concerns about what's humane and what's not humane. I've been shooting squirrels and I've had problems with them not going down instantly. They're very small here. That's one of the problems. They're like literally half the size of squirrels, 500 miles north of here. So they're not that easy to hit. And I think I've been deceived a lot by what people say. They always say, "Oh, I shoot them in the head from 100 yards and they drop every time." I shot a squirrel in the head 4 times once, and he didn't stop until the 4th shot. So I've heard a lot of BS. But I was thinking about it. I was thinking, well, if I use 204 Ruger, I can hit a squirrel in the head no problem, because it's not like 22, which is inherently inaccurate. And if I hit a squirrel in the head anywhere with 204 Ruger, 3,900 feet per second, it's going to be lights out, and it'll be humane and quick. So I don't know. I'm thinking about doing that, and I'm also thinking about taking the shotgun out, because if I take the shotgun out, then I can shoot squirrels out of trees, and I don't have to worry about the neighbors complaining because bullets have gone through their windows. The pellets in a shotgun when you shoot them upward, they're going to lose their energy really quickly. And even if they somehow manage to come down on a neighbor's property, they would never know it, because it would be like nothing. It'd be like, insignificant compared to an acorn coming off a tree. So I hope you'll pray for my success and pray that God keeps correcting me and helping me to be aligned with Him. I hope you'll be aligned with Him too. I look forward to seeing the end of this thing. I look forward to the inauguration. I look forward to seeing things come down on one side or the other. And either way, I expect to live in protection and blessing and peace and victory as long as I'm on the planet. And you can too. You know, you can get God's favor too. You just have to apply and do the right things. So I hope this is helpful. I'm going to quit. I really am. Bye.